Welcome to the Be a Human in Business show with your hosts, Tracy Borison, founder and personal branding coach at TLB Coaching and Events, Tara Argo, founder and relationship strategist at Argo Operations, Tawana Taylor, founder and project management consultant at Bootstrap Dreams, Debbie Akwara, founder and principal consultant at Niche Customer Experience Consulting Firm. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Be a Human in Business show. We are very excited to have a special guest with us today, the lovely Alice Stephenson. And we are going to have a very cool conversation about how to be yourself. But Alice brings a really unique perspective because she is also a lawyer and she has been through quite the journey in terms of what it looks like to be yourself and to be a lawyer. So what I would like you guys to kind of frame, if you're a lawyer, you don't have to do much framing because you can listen exactly to what Alice has to say. But think about those times as we go through this episode and Alice shares some stories about what it was like for her to try and fit into the lawyer box. What box maybe are you trying to fit into? And hopefully we can give you a ton of nuggets like we normally do on how you can get out of that box and make things more awesome for yourself. So Alice, we are so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, welcome, Alice.
Welcome, Alice. We're so excited to have you. And we do want you to tell them, because this is my thing, we have to know where you're from and where you're at, because our viewers need to know that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So originally I'm from the UK, born and bred in England, and then moved to Amsterdam in Holland last July, actually. So I'm a UK lawyer, but living in Holland.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And so Alice, tell us a little bit about your journey through law and now as a business owner, how the whole story played out for you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been a lawyer for 12 years now, I think. And then at law school for a couple of years before that. So it feels like a long time. I'm starting to feel a little bit old now, I think. I started off sort of fairly conventionally in my career, trained at a big commercial firm, worked in private practice for a few years, and it was all sort of quite conventional. And I think, certainly in the early days, I had my career mapped out in my head that I was, going to progress. I was going to get to be a partner in a law firm, and, it was all going to be fine and dandy, really. And then when I got to about 3 years qualified, I just actually realized that this is not what I wanted at all. At that point I had 2 children, and law was my second career. So before I was a lawyer, I worked in human resources. So I was slightly older than a lot of my peers, had a second career. And what that does is it gives you a little bit of a leg up. Because you know a lot of sort of the general commercial principles that you need to understand to be a lawyer. You're used to working in an office environment. You're used to kind of managing all the kind of key skills you learn just from working. I'd sort of had 7 years of doing that before I became a lawyer. But what I realized was none of that really mattered. Like, it didn't matter if I was a good lawyer or if I was a better lawyer than other people of my level, because they have these tick boxes, and these tick boxes say until you get to 5 years qualified, then you can't be promoted, or there's just all these tick boxes, all this bureaucracy. And certainly as a mum as well, really conscious that it was tolerated, but it was not embraced. The fact that I had to leave at a certain time to pick up my children, people would raise eyebrows. I was called part-time when I was leaving at 5 o'clock to pick up my children. There's all these things going on. I was like, do you know what? I reached the point where I was like, this is just not what I want to do anymore. But I didn't know what else to do, so I left my job in my law firm and thought, I'm just waiting for this moment, this vision of where I was going to do, what was my next career going to be, and it just never came. But so what I did in the meantime is I worked as a consultant lawyer, which was fine. It gave me a lot more freedom, flexibility, a lot more autonomy, and some really good experience. And I just sort of did that while I really decided what I wanted to do. And it took me 3 years in the end of doing that. And in that period of time, I also had another baby. And then I just sort of decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up my own law firm, because there's not a single law firm out there that I want to work at. So I'm going to start my own law firm. And I did that in 2017. So coming up to 4 years ago now. So we're a UK law firm. We've got 22 people working for us. We specialise in commercial tech, data protection, corporate intellectual property and employment law. And yeah, things are going really well. We won Boutique Law Firm of the Year award last year. I've just been awarded a Women in Innovation grant for some of the tech that we're developing as well ourselves. So things are going really, really well. And I talk a lot about the issues that I have with the legal industry, around gender inequality, around the lack of innovation, some of the perceptions. I've got tattoos. People frown upon tattoos in the legal industry. So I talk a lot about these issues, and it creates quite a lot of debate on social media, and that's all can be quite entertaining, really. So I do that in my spare time when whilst I'm running my business as well, really.
Love that.
Your journey is so incredible. Yeah,
that's a lot to take on. Like, just let it sit for like 2-3 seconds or 5 minutes. Just let that.
I feel like I just word vomited everywhere. Then.
Yeah. It's
so
amazing.
good.
Who would have thought that in the legal profession there will be need for innovation? I think for me that's mind blowing, and it's not just innovation in terms of what you're doing now. You're trying to get funding for getting the grants for innovation that you're working on, but in terms of the people, right? I've never heard this before, so it's such a breath of fresh air. Mm-hmm. And I picked on, that you have to have worked a certain number of years, and I picked on the issue of like I share similar, I think, to one as well. Share that whole thing about, you have to get up and pick your child from school. Like, I had those issues a lot while I was in paid employment. But here's my question though. So now that, this is one question. I'm sure more will come up as we get to know you a bit more, talk about your story. But now that you are an employer, how do you put that human perspective, knowing your experience as a parent who had to be away at a certain time? What have you put in place at the firm to cater to mothers and to create gender balance in your firm?
I don't think you just have to give people the space to do what they need to do, right? You don't have to put these restrictions in place that prevent people from doing what they need to do. And at my business, everybody's got their jobs to do. They've got their clients to work with. They've got whatever it is that they've got to do. And they've obviously got to do the work that's required of them. But when they do that work and how they do that work, I don't care. If they want to go and pick up their children at 2:30, or if they want to go to the gym at 10 o'clock in the morning, or if they want to go spinning at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't care. All I care about is that the work is done and that it's done well. So we just don't have those restrictions in place where you have to, we're not in an office, and I know COVID's made a big difference to this, but we're all virtual. Mm-hmm. So you don't actually see everybody getting up and leaving like you used to when I was in private practice. If you were leaving at 5 o'clock to pick up your children, everybody in the office would see you getting up, putting your coat on, getting your bag and walking out, and it would be like this big talking point, like, look at her leaving at 5 o'clock. It's obviously not like that anymore. Whether it returns to that or not, we'll wait and see. But it's about trusting the people that work for you. And for me, there's no point in recruiting somebody unless you trust them. And if somebody ever does anything to break that trust, then as far as I'm concerned, the relationship is never going to work. It has to work both ways. But as long as you've got that trust there, and you've got people who are working for you that are doing what they need to do, then you've just got to give them the space and the autonomy to run their lives. I mean,
yeah.
to me,
So I mean, just a follow-up question to what you said now, which is very, very key. Hiring people and then you can't trust them. But it takes, so for you, it's two things, right? It takes a certain type of person that you can hire and trust. And there's also the thing around hiring people in your space where there are a lot of boxes and a lot of rules and expected behavior. How do you even profile and identify the right person when you're hiring?
I mean, it's something that we're trying to get better at all of the time, because we certainly made mistakes. I think we are getting better now at identifying the person that's the right fit for us. But I think what I struggle with the most is you need somebody that's the right fit for your business. You know, we're a very specific type of business. We're a startup. We're slightly chaotic in the way that we work. We're very fast paced, and we need people to work for us that are happy in that kind of environment, because for some people it would really stress them out. We haven't got these formal structures and processes in place that lots of people get comfort from. So you need people that are going to fit in. You need people that are aligned with your values and what you're trying to achieve. But also, you don't want to just recruit a whole load of clones. You really still want to have diversity. You want to have lots of different people with different ideas and backgrounds and perspectives. So trying to evaluate all of those things in what's maybe 2 interviews and maybe a written exercise is really, really hard. But I'm quite a sort of an instinct-led person, and I tend to trust my instincts, and they're not always right, and I do make mistakes, but that tends to be what gets me through, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said, but I think I've done enough talking. So I guess Tracy, Tara, Tawana have questions.
I was just so excited because when you were talking about the chaoticness of a startup, Debbie was all like, yeah, because I think that's like the life Debbie.
Like I could just go on and just dive right in with Alice, but I'm going to stop, put a pause on it right here.
It's so good though. We love to hear you guys conversing on that topic. But I have a quick question to piggyback on that too. Do you find that your employees, because you don't put those parameters in place, that they seem to be a lot happier? So you're not seeing, you may have some turnover, but they overall seem happier because they're able to live in their space and do what they're great at?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit like Marmite, really. You either love it or you hate it. And as long as we have the right person, which at the moment we've got a great team, then it gives them an environment that they can really thrive and flourish. And that's great. But like I said, some people want more formality. They want more structure. Like, I get asked a lot at interview stage, like, what's your career progression path? How do I progress? And my answer is always, well, we don't have a defined career progression path because we don't want one. We want to assess people based on the value that they bring to the business, and then we want to reward them for that. And we don't want to be bound by a process and a policy in how we do that. So for some people, they don't like that. They want to know, well, if I do this, this, and this, then this is going to happen. Whereas actually, we're more like, come and work for us. We're going to give you all of this support and all of these opportunities, but you bring the ideas. You tell us what you want to do, and we'll support you to do that. And if you do well, then we'll reward you for that. So if with the right person, that's a really, really great environment for them to work in, and one that I wish I'd had as a junior lawyer, for sure.
And I think that's the point, right? And like I talk about this a lot in terms of when people are working on target audience and everything too. And it's the same with employees, right? This business isn't right for everybody. And especially when you're coming from an industry like law, where a lot of times, even like starting in law school, this is people's expectation, right? Like this is what they expect to look like for it to be a lawyer. And they build all of their career expectations around that. And for the people like Alice, and I have a lot of friends who are lawyers, so I know a handful of them as well are just like, oh, this is like, why is it this way? Why are we doing it this way? Why is like this still a thing that's just in the legal profession and in no other professions, right? Like for those people, giving them another option is really the thing they have been craving, but didn't even know that they were really looking for. So I love that, because that is what happens when you just be yourself and you create based off of what you believe. You give people an access to come and believe the same things if they're not aligned with the old way things are being done.
Yeah.
So Alice, I'm going to ask a question because I'm the feeling person. I'm all about feelings. So I would love to know for you kind of the difference between the feelings you had going to work when you were in the corporate legal box versus the feelings you have going to work now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, but I think there was just always the pressure to conform to the industry standards. You know, you're a lawyer, that means you're pretty much expected to look a certain way, behave a certain way, and then there's the kind of additional nuances that are added to that by whoever you work for, that you have to navigate. And there's not a lot of room, there's not a lot of flexibility in all of that. It's not like working for a creative agency where people really want everybody to be creative. It's not like that at all. It's all about being professional, and you have to look professional, you have to sound professional in everything that you do. And I get that, as a law firm, we are also very professional, but we have a different definition of what professional is. And when I was working in these law firms, I wasn't allowed to have my tattoos on show. I had people that weren't allowed to wear their nose rings, or if they had like one of somebody that I worked with had like this tiny little tattoo on her foot and she had to put a plaster over it. I mean, it was that oppressive that there was, you weren't allowed to have anything that made you look slightly different without somebody saying, no, that's not okay. And I've always been somebody that's liked to express myself. I don't have like a particularly crazy dress style. I look at lots of people and think, God, I wish I could be as confident as you in like what you're wearing. There's nothing particularly outrageous about what I tend to wear, but it never really fitted the mold of what a lawyer is expected to wear. I never really, like suits and heels and stuff, never really felt good on me. And I think I just got fed up of all of that. I got fed up of feeling like I was being told what to wear, told what to look like, and being told over and over again, even if it's not, expressly being told, but through the culture and through the messaging, that, your tattoos are not acceptable. That makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, because you're like, well, I like my tattoos, so what's wrong with them? Why does that say something negative about me? And I just got fed up with it, really. And at my law firm now, people can wear what they want to wear. People can get whatever they want to get pierced and dye their hair, whatever they want to wear. They can do all of these things, and I don't care. And actually, our clients like that about us. As a law firm, we've evolved to attract a type of client that has a very similar mindset to ours. And they want to work with us because we look the way that we look, because we look like them. And we're comfortable in the way that we our working, the way that we're dressed and everything else. And then we get to work with people who, you know, are also feeling the same way as us. And that just works really well. And I think a lot of the big law firms, one of the really big challenges they have is they're trying to be everything to everyone. They're these massive corporate institutions and they work for every business imaginable. And therefore they just have to look as bland as possible so they can't possibly offend anyone. And it's like with marketing, right? You all know that, you know, when you're marketing your business, you need to market to your target audience so that you're going to speak to your target audience. But if your target audience is everyone, how do you do that? You just don't have any personality.
Alice, you're triggering me. I remember when we did our introduction call with you, you know, as a group, and we were exploring some of the things that you absolutely tapped on today. And if you will, share your story, right? Talking about who you are, how you dress, how you let your personality show, yet you still perform, right? For lack of better ways to describe it, like you still show up and you do the business. Share your story about that time where you went to pitch a client and how you showed up so differently, right? I'm not going to spoiler alert. How you showed up so differently than the rest of the people who came to do the same pitch, right? Talk about that to allow people to see how being a demonstration of you actually does get you business.
Yeah, no,
I loved that story too. I'm excited that you're going to share it.
Yes, I want to hear it.
Sure. I mean, this was, I suppose, fairly soon after starting my business, and I was just, I guess my confidence was building in terms of how much of myself I was prepared to be with certain groups of people. And I was going to pitch to a client, a big client. If you lived in the UK, then you definitely would have heard of them. And I just remember standing in my bedroom that morning thinking, do I go for the smart option, which I'd always done that before up until this point? Do I go for the smart option, or do I go for what I want to wear, like what I'm feeling today that I want to wear? And I decided to go for the latter. So I actually put on a pair of jeans. I can't remember what else I wore, but I put on a pair of jeans and something else. And turned up for this pitch, and we were sitting in the meeting room with the CFO and the general counsel, and we were, you know, talking about the service and Stephenson law and all of that stuff, and it was all fine. And I think, but in the back of my head, I was just thinking, oh my God, have I made a mistake? Have I made a mistake? What have I done? I don't know. I can't read them. I don't know. This is a terrible idea. But then at the end of the meeting, the CFO turned around to me and said, so I've noticed that you're looking really casual, Alice. And I was like, oh my God, no. And she said, I just find it so refreshing that you've turned up looking the way that you look, because if you looked through our office door just around the corner, which I couldn't see from the meeting room that we were in, you would see that everybody here is dressed like that. But every lawyer that's come to speak to us has come all suited and booted. So I really like the fact that you have come looking different. And we got the work as a result of that. And they were a really big client of ours. So after that, I never had that doubt again.
What an affirmation. What an affirmation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it just takes taking that bold step. And I mean, being an entrepreneur myself and hiring people, working for clients, to hear things like, so I've had people tell me, actual mentors tell me, you don't show up for a pitch alone. You have to have a team, 3 people, 5 people. You have to have your proposals a certain way. You have to do, it all comes down to what's the purpose of the business, right? And, just like you, there's a huge purpose. And I really, really admire, like I'm your biggest fan right now, to be honest, right? What you're doing, you don't understand what you're doing until you look back 10 years and you see the army of young lawyers who have been let out of the box, and they will completely transform how the legal profession would work in the UK. You'll be amazed. You don't understand what you've done It's huge.
I would agree with
huge.
that. It's almost like you're starting a movement. And I would just
Yeah.
ask you, have you received a lot of feedback? Are you like, are people like reaching out to you like, oh my gosh, you are exactly what I've wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it, or I didn't feel confident and bold enough to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I do. About 12 months ago, I started sort of taking my social media seriously and my personal brand. I started posting on social media and talking about a lot of the things I'm talking about now. And it just really blew up. And I get lots of messages from student lawyers, from female lawyers, and from male lawyers to a lesser extent, telling me, well, certainly from student lawyers saying, just thank you, because you're giving me so much reassurance about entering this industry. I've been really worried that I'm not going to fit in and that I'm, going to be really unhappy. But hearing the things that you talk about has given me a lot more confidence that I'm going to be okay. So that's really nice. I do get quite a lot of those sorts of messages. So I feel really, really lucky.
I love that and resonate
Tracy,
with that.
do you remember? Sorry, Tawana,
Oh,
go on.
I apologize. No, I was just gonna just expressing that I love that and resonate with that so much, because with me, particularly in the state government, so I'm a creative at heart, and so when I was with small business, a lot of it was creative work. So we came to work being ourselves, right? But when I went into state government, it was one of those nuances where, like you've expressed, you suited and booted and and then a little bit of casual came into casual Fridays, but even that was like jeans and khakis and, a certain kind of dress shirt, right? And I remember going into career, so in college, nose ring, things like that. And so I remember, coming out of college, I remember when you're going through that transition, take the nose ring out and make sure you're wearing this, your black suit and your white shirt and like no opportunities, just like nothing was happening. And it's like, how can you go from being a representative for the university, speaking at all these places, being flown places, right? You can do that. But then when it comes down to the interview, people don't see your value, right? Like what am I not articulating well? Like, what is it? Like, what is happening? And then I check the boxes. And when I finally said, you know what, enough of the shenanigans, I'm going to be my best self and I'm going to wear my natural hair. I'm not going to press it down, right? I'm going to wear my natural hair. I'm getting my nose ring back in because I like it. And instead of wearing the black suit, I'm going to wear the gray suit with the yellow blouse, right? And once I started doing that, opportunities came. And then when I got in the door as going from the bottom, up as starting as a project coordinator to the enterprise project consultant, I remember so many times where the directors, if you will, of departments and some of the C-suite executives were like, well, you come to the meetings, the team meetings so casually, or I would suit up for the leadership, if I had to do a board presentation or a leadership presentation as necessary. But when it came down to meeting with the teams, even directors and C-suite executives would be there. If it was about the team, I dressed like the team, especially on the onset, because it puts up a wall when you come in, right? And it's like, so I'm already foreign to the team. You've appointed me to be here. People are scared for their jobs. People are wondering if I'm there to point out all the things they're doing wrong. Why am I going to add a barrier that says, hey, I'm new and I'm in charge of you? That doesn't make sense to me. So I would tell them, this is a part of the persona. This is a part of the strategy to make sure that your team functions with me and that they realize that I'm here to support them, not to hinder what they're doing. And so having, wearing the purple lipstick in a workshop to help them do the work versus, the normal stuff, and having my nose ring and wearing my hair in a high pony and, wearing jeans. Exactly, Tracy, wearing jeans and a more casual blouse. I was like, that's a part of my strategy. That's a part of who I am. And I work better when I feel better, right? And it helps your team receive me so that you can ultimately receive what it is that you envisioned with this idea that you have me here now orchestrating. I'm just a conduit. Your team is the genius, right? And so it does not benefit any of us to go in building a wall of separation. So I absolutely appreciate that you share that, and that you recognize your culture is shared with your client culture, right? Your culture is shared with the people who you intend to have not only serving in your business, but serving them to be their best selves as well. So I commend that. I'm excited about what you've shared, and I'm excited about the movement, and that people see that they have opportunity because of who you just decided one day, right? You just decided, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be. And if you can't get with that, we're just not, there are other people who can serve you better, right? Like, there are other people who are for you. I'm not going to change my business to fit into your limitations, even though there's freedom and boundaries. Like, I just love that you have decided to live a life and lead a company with a team that will serve their clients well, being their best human selves. That's amazing.
And you guys know I'm all over this because I'm all about personal branding.
Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah, everything Alice has said today, it's been amazing. And I think it's incredible that she's offering this opportunity to 22 individuals. I think it's amazing. I hope more people will follow your footsteps.
Truly.
Well, and like Debbie said too, right? Like, I talk about this a lot because a lot of people talk about needing permission, right? Like, they're working with coach or whatever, and they're like, oh, I just needed permission to do that. The thing is that you didn't need permission. You need to know someone else is doing it, right? Sometimes it can feel really hard to do things when you feel like you're the only one doing them. And there is a certain type of person, and I think Alice falls into this category, who is just like, well, I can't deal with this. And I don't really care if no one else is doing it because I need to do something different. And those people are, Tara always calls them catalysts, right? Like, they're catalysts for change. This is a catalyst for change in an entire industry that, quite honestly, has probably been just desiring some kind of change for, I don't know, 50 years at least, right? Like, it's an industry that has kind of been left behind in terms of saying that innovation is allowed, embracing your personal brand is allowed, right? Like, and it's interesting because I love what you said, Alice, about changing the definition of being professional, right? Because there isn't one definition of being professional, but the entire legal profession and other professions too, finance, things of that nature, are living in that same thing. At one point, someone decided this is what was professional, this is what was appropriate. Again, like you said, this is what everybody expects us to be. So now forever, we're gonna be that? I don't think. I'm the biggest proponent
So boring.
of, like, evolution, right? Like, as individuals, we're like always evolving and growing. You can't just, like, even people who come to get coached by me, it's like, your personal brand is one thing today, and 5 years from now, it's going to evolve, right? It's not going to be totally different, but it's going to evolve. We have to evolve. The entire world evolves. Every single species on the planet evolves. We can't just say, like, well, everything but this industry is going to evolve.
But being yourself doesn't affect the quality of your work. Like, just because I look a certain way doesn't mean that I'm not amazing and an expert in my field. So that's the problem in the world today, though, is that that's exactly what we associate it with. It's like, if you don't look the part, then you obviously don't know how to do the work. And that's absolutely not true. So we're all very much change makers, and I believe that we can make change in this world, and we come together and we don't sit on the sidelines and wait for somebody else to do it. We take it on and we just run with it, and we do it. And I think that's what sets us apart.
Agreed.
Tawana says, boom.
Boom. In the chat, I am booming.
Sorry, I get excited sometimes. I'm listening to you guys and I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I mean, truly, if you're good, you're good.
It does.
Well, and like Tawana said the same thing, right? Like, if I could show up feeling my best self, then you get my best work.
That's right.
If more people could harness this on a corporate level anyway, whether that's law, whether that's government, I don't know about government's process, but
it's still people. It's still people, right?
But it's
like, tight.
Just assuming that, like, everybody, I don't know. I wrote that when I was listening to Alice describe it, the words that came to my head was a culture of oppression, right? And I was just like, that feels so bad. It feels so bad. The fact that that is still a thing, it's a commonly accepted principle. And I would guess that there's also like lawyers, like other lawyers starting their own firms, right? Boutique firms, but their boutique firms are following the same culture, right? And they're just continuing to build on that expectation of what that industry is. And having, yeah, I think it's a breath of fresh air to say, like, you can be a good lawyer and you can be a mother and you can wear jeans at work. And they're ands, they're not ors. You can't like be a good
And
lawyer.
show your tattoos.
Right. Like they're ands, and they actually end up contributing at a higher level because you let it be an and instead of an or. And I love that so much.
And what struck me, a lot of things have struck me about you, Alice. Totally love you. Again, I'm your biggest fan. Just add me to your list of fans. One thing that struck me in what you said is when you talked about not having processes and structures. So I run a boutique firm, and I know how I encourage clients who have, customer facing teams. I encourage structure and all of that. But when it comes to building a team that thinks a certain way, having those multiple structures and processes, it kind of stifles them. It kind of limits how they think, right? So, I mean, and I totally get that. And I thought for me, that was a big one, because I used to think, okay, is it that I'm not doing enough? But when I give people so many things, follow this step, that step, they come back to me with the exact same steps. And I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what more they can do. And again, I'm seeing all of this that you're saying. I'm seeing all of this in your story, right? So your approach to, practicing law and running your own business, it's your story, it's your why, it's your experience, it's what you couldn't take. And you've created a structure in place where you are allowing people who are like you to express themselves and add value to clients' business. There's something that I've realized in business is you attract what you are. So if you're not your authentic self, you will struggle to please customers. When you are your authentic self, putting yourself out there, and I'm sure this is something that you can connect with as well, is that you begin to attract a certain type of customer that has the same value set as you do. So thank you. I mean, thank you. I know we're rounding this up. Thank you. I'm blown away, to be honest. Just you don't want to get an invite from me on LinkedIn. Like, I need to know more about Alice.
She has a bunch of followers now.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys, it's actually funny because Tara asked the question if like more people are following her, and that's why I started following her. And that's why I reached out for the show, because I was like, kind of been stalking you for a while, and I think you should be on our show.
Yeah, and then she shared it with me, and then she started sharing it, and she was like, you've got to see Alice, like she's like really leading the way. And it's like, and that's how we feel about business. So it's it's a fun conversation to have, because we're very, very passionate about just that, being a human in business.
Yes. And it just brings us back to, I swear we say it on every episode now, it is like our staple, to quote Debbie, right? People are only as human as their experiences. And so, for us who have stepped into our essence, our excellence, and for those of us who have decided, hey, like it, love it, or leave it. You want to go be great? Come on board. You want to go be something else? Go that way, right? For those of us who have decided that being ourselves is our best, and we function best when we're at our best, it just really allows, like it creates room. We don't have to find a balance. We create the balance and give, right, the opportunity for the next best to be represented. And so is anybody have anything else to say before we wrap up and do our show summary?
I would love for Alice to share one more thing, just in terms of if you could give the young lawyers that reach out to you, the young lawyers that are hopefully seeing this episode, if you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Good one.
I mean, I think I do get asked this quite a lot, and I think my main piece of advice to young lawyers is just to not allow yourself to get swept up in the process, right? So even when you're at law school, even in fact, to be honest, even when you're at secondary school, you're started on this journey, you're put in this funnel that's taking you to wherever it is, the top of, law firm partner or whatever it is. And every step you take, you're gently nudged, like, go here, do this, apply for this firm, do blah, 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 blah. And you wake up like me, like 3 years later, and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? Like, how did I end up here? I don't feel like I chose to be here. So, for me, I think it's about being more conscious of what you're doing and the influences around you, so that you're not being just swept up in this process. Because what that does is it puts blinkers on you, and you don't see all of these other amazing opportunities around you. You think that there's just, this one way, and you have to do that other, because that's what everyone's telling you that you have to do. And it's just bollocks, excuse my language, but it is total bollocks. There are so many other ways that you can do things. And if there's not a way that you want to do things, then do what I did and just make your own way. But I see so many law students just, following the process, following the journey, and not even like stopping and looking left and right and seeing what's there.
I love that.
That's so good. And all of us really like to make our own way. So that really speaks to us as well. I was thinking she's speaking to me, even though I'm not a lawyer, but you know what? We make a way. And again, that's why we're catalysts. That's why we're change makers. That's why we're creating movements to create, hopefully make things better for the future generations.
This has been wonderful. This has been so wonderful, so refreshing, such, again, we're totally, hey, we may be biased, but we're totally in support of all of the greatness that you are living, that you are demonstrating, that you are inspiring others, right, to continue on and to start even, right? If you're already in the funnel, you can break out, right? That's what we're hearing today. If you're in the funnel already, it's not too late. You can break out. And with that, we're going to give our show summary, because, we like to give you guys key takeaways in case you didn't catch some nuggets along the way. Here are the ones that we felt were most important. Yes, we have a chat and we capture them. Okay. So you don't have to have such harsh restrictions in place. Be flexible, right? Be flexible in your business, in the business that you serve. Seek to find the right fit. You define what that is, right? Counter the culture of oppression. Oh my goodness, knowing the culture of your business and the people you serve is important. There is a correlation between your personality, your story, your why, your business, and the kind of clients and employees you attract. None of them are isolated. Embracing your personal brand is allowed, okay? You can do that. Being yourself defines your work, okay? And then we also have, you attract who you are, right? You can't say this enough. You attract who you are and who you are. When you are not your authentic self, you will struggle to please your clients, your customers. And last but not least, don't allow yourself to get swept up in the process. Be conscious about what you are doing and choosing. There are many ways to get things accomplished. If you don't see one, make your own way.
Oh, man.
Amazing.
There's so many good nuggets there.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, that was so awesome. Thank you, Alice, so much.
Thank you so much, Alice.
We
loved having you on the show.
Yes, we did.
With hopefully our young lawyer audience today, about how they have the option. Making their own way is an option. And if you need someone to talk to about it, reach out to Alice because she knows a lot about it. With that, thank you guys for watching today. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe. We would love for you guys to keep coming back. We'll have another episode for you guys in 2 weeks. And until then, just remember, be a human.
Be a human.